Welcome back, everybody. This is our third video in explaining a Gemara in Masechet Megillah Daf Yud Chet Amud Aleph. Previous two videos went through the first half of the Gemara we're going to learn. The next video is going to discuss the second half of the Gemara that we're going to learn. That's what we're going to begin right now. So from here where it says Umimai down until Beped, that's what we're going to do right now. We already went through the first half of the Gemara. We're now going to go through the second half of the Gemara. Before we actually get into the text of the Gemara itself, a little introduction is required. I'd like to quickly first discuss a concept known as midrash. Okay, the fancy word for midrash we're going to use is exegesis. Okay, that's the fancy word for midrash, fancy definition. And basically what this means is we call deriving new meaning from text of psukim. Sorry, we got sloppy at the end there. Okay, deriving new meaning, not the pshat. That's the important part. Deriving means to learn, to take out new meaning from the text of the psukim. So it's looking at a pasuk and saying, oh, based on how the pasuk wrote it, what is it teaching me more than just what's written on the surface? Okay, the word midrash you might have heard in terms of like stories that are told about, what's going on in the Chumash, what's going on in other parts of Tanakh. The reason why that's called midrash is because those explanations and those stories are all derived from the original text. Sometimes it's hard to tell, and sometimes you have to go back to the words and see how do the words teach us these stories. But midrash that we're talking about does come from the meaning of the words. The particular form of midrash we're going to be discussing is what's called midrash halacha. Okay, which basically is the same thing as what we said before. Okay, but instead, the new things that we're learning new laws. Okay, so the way that the psukim and the Torah are written teach us beyond just, again, what they mean literally. There are new laws you can learn based on how they are written. An example we already had earlier was the beginning of the Gemara. Right, our Gzera Shava that we used was an example of midrash halacha. It's taking the meaning of the words, in this case, the usage of the words Zachor or Zikaron and Nizkarim, and it's saying that the fact that the same shorish is used in both places teaches us that a Megillah must be read from an actual text and it can't be read by heart. So in that case, we use the words of the Megillah, and when it comes to destroying Amalek or remembering Amalek, we use those words to teach us a new law about reading the Megillah. So that's really what midrash halacha does. What we're going to do right now is look at an example of midrash halacha and how that teaches us something also about remembering Amalek. So the first thing that you have to do before you actually engage in midrash, okay, before you make a drasha, is to have psukim. These psukim we're going to look at both come from Dvarim, and they discuss the mitzvah to remember what Amalek did to Bnei Israel. So let's read the psukim. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Again, there's that word Zachor again. Remember what Amalek did to you. B'derech b'tzeitchem miRitzrayim, on your way out of Egypt. So what I want to point out here is what's the commandment here. The commandment is Zachor, to remember. You shall remember what Amalek did to you on the way out of Egypt. That's the first part of the commandment. Now we move on to a phrase, two psukim later. In Pasuk Yud Tet, the Torah moves on now to give us the commandment to destroy Amalek. Okay, when God grants you respite, it means rest, right, from all of your enemies around you. In Eretz Israel, Nachala Rishta, an inheritance to possess. So again, you go into Eretz Israel, and now you finally are done with your enemies. Right? You should wipe out any memory of Amalek. There's a mitzvah to destroy Amalek. And what does the Torah finish by telling us? Another command: Lo tishkach, do not forget. So now we have a second commandment here, okay, in terms of remembering Amalek. Previously, we were told Zachor, right, remember, and now we are told Lo Tishkach, you should not forget. So in terms of drasha, midrash, the question we have to ask ourselves is why? Okay? Why, if you're already told to remember, why do we also have to be told not to forget? Obviously, if I say to you, right, remember to bring your lunch to school today, right, remember to study for your test, I'm also telling you, don't forget your lunch at home, right, don't forget to study. Why does the Torah have to use both of the phrases Zachor and Lo Tishkach? This is a perfect example of where the Torah would use midrash. I shouldn't say the Torah, where the rabbis would come along and use midrash. They would make a drasha to explain what are these two things teaching us, right? So the base mitzvah would be to remember. The question is, what was Lo Tishkach, don't forget, teaching us? So that's something I'd like you guys to think about a little bit, right? If you had these two psukim, if it just said Zachor, remember, so obviously you know what that means. Now that it says Zachor and Lo Tishkach, right, that's telling you a little bit more. What I'd like you to do right now is actually pause the video, okay? And I'm not going to do like last time and say, oh, why did you pause it again? Okay, pause the video, take a few minutes to think. If I had to explain Zachor and Lo Tishkach, right, what is Lo Tishkach, don't forget, teaching me to do differently besides just remembering? So pause the video now and try to think for a minute or two, right, what is being added by Lo Tishkach? What commandment is being added? What do we have to do in order to fulfill don't forget? And we're back. Did you pause the video? Did you think about it? I'm sure you did. Okay, let's see if what I come up with is similar to what you came up with. I'm not going to give the actual answer the Gemara says, but I'm going to get us along the way thinking. When you think about Zachor, remember, right? So remember is something that you do inside your head, right? Remember, right, to remember your lunch, right? So what does that mean? It means in your head, think about the fact that I have to bring my lunch to school today. Make sure it's in your head so that you bring it with you, right? Remember to study. That means make sure that you end up studying that, right? It doesn't slip your mind. That all takes place, right? That all takes place, we'll say, right, in your head. But if I say Lo Tishkach and also don't forget, maybe what that's telling me is to do something active, right? Do something so that I don't forget, right? Write myself a note, like set an alarm on my phone to remind me. That might be what the Lo Tishkach is. So again, if I was going to use this for the case of a situation of drasha, right? If you just take the words, okay, so maybe it's just emphasizing it. But if you really believe that every word in the Torah, or most words in the Torah, whatever it is, have specific meaning to it, and God would not put words in the Torah that are, so to speak, extra. So why tell me Zachor and don't forget just for emphasis? That's not enough. So you might say that the word Zachor is teaching us that you have to just remember it in your head. But when it adds Lo Tishkach, that's telling me I have to do something active in order so that I remember. That would be the midrash. And that would be the new halacha we're learning. The simple meaning is all in your head. But if I go into the deeper meaning of the words, I may learn that it's teaching me to be not just to remember in my head, but also that I have to do something active in order to remember Amalek. That's basically all the background you're going to need in order to get into this Gemara. Just remember that the Gemara that we've seen so far assumed that that remembering Amalek must take place from a text. And then the Gemara is going to discuss that a little bit. We'll see it in class. We'll see it on another video. And again, these psukim, right, Zachor and Lo Tishkach, need to be in the back of your mind, right? Please don't forget them.